Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we dive deep into the art of songwriting, chat with some of the most exciting artists in the world, and explore the stories behind their songs. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and as always, thank you so much for joining us. Our guest this week on the podcast is Lenka. The Australian singer and songwriter has been a beloved presence in pop music for almost 2 decades now, best known for tracks like The Show, Trouble Is a Friend, and Everything at Once, songs that found their way into film, television, and advertising all over the world and into people's hearts. She has just released her 8th studio album, Good Days, a record that sees her return to a classic vintage soul sound recorded in Sydney alongside producer Tony Buchen. It's a deeply personal album and one that finds Lenka searching for light and warmth in these uncertain times. Now today we're sitting down with Lenka on the podcast to talk all about what it means to be putting out music in 2026 and how the landscape has shifted for artists. We dig into the songwriting and sonics behind Good Days and what drew her back to that classic sound that people might know her for. We reflect on her journey through the music industry from 2008 to now and the changes that she's witnessed and lived through along the way. And then we also chat about what touring behind this record is going to look like for her. Now we want to say a massive thank you to Bron for her help with today's episode and give you a friendly reminder that Good Days, the brand new album from Lenka, is out right now. You'll find links in the show notes on where you can purchase the album, find Lenka on tour, and follow her across all of her socials. While you are in the show notes, please make sure you subscribe to This Song Is Yours and come and follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. It really does help us out. It keeps you across new episodes, guests, and everything else that we've got going on. And it also keeps you across our playlist feature and our merch section. So that website is thissongisyours.com.au. All your podcast needs can be found right there. But let's not keep you any longer. Let's get into it. Here is our conversation with Lenka.
Give me more of those good days where we can just fly high, feeling the songs raise, and maybe dance all night, and we will be just fine.
Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Lenka. Hello there. How's it going?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and having a chat with us today.
Pleasure.
I'm very, very excited to be chatting with you today. There's a new album out from yourself. I know there's a lot of excitement around it. Good Days is the album. Firstly, congratulations. How are you feeling with it already being out in the world? People are enjoying it. People are listening to it. How is it from your perspective?
Yeah, it feels good. It does feel like a bit of a release, and it's always really mad around that time, and now it feels quite quiet. Mm-hmm. I did my album launch last week, and so now I've just been kind of resting and recovering from a really hectic time. And I haven't really been thinking about it actually for a few days. So it's nice to give it some thought as well, like again. Whereas for about a month, it was all I thought about all day, every day. And I was just nonstop on the socials and just really, really obsessed, doing a lot of videos and things like that. So now I'm having a bit of a breather and letting the dust settle, and It feels good.
I love to hear that. It's a funny thing. We speak to a number of artists and songwriters on this podcast where I think, and it's maybe like a tiny bit of a peek behind the curtain, but these songs are written over such a lengthy period of time. You write them, you record them, they're then mixed and mastered, and they almost not do nothing for a period of time, but you're almost separated from them. And so when you then come back to them to go through that whole process, it's almost like you're having to re-find that same mindset and energy to have that same level of excitement, I imagine.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that what helped me be quite inside it all this time around was I did a video for every single song, only like a little bit, but that I did that after the album was mastered and in the lead up to knowing that I had to do a lot of promo, a lot of marketing and have a lot of content ready. I felt like I was still telling the story of each song and actually still kind of understanding what each song was about by making the visual material to go with it. So that helped because you do actually go through something where, especially when you're doing promo and people ask you about a song and you're like, I wrote it 2 years ago and I recorded it 8 months ago. So let me think, what was it about? Yeah. And also the other thing that's weird is that as a songwriter, you kind of want to keep moving on. And I'm trying not to allow myself to write any songs right now because that would be really a really weird feeling to be thinking about what I'll be working on next. I just have to try to live in this world for a little while.
I kind of like that though. Were you was there any surprises, any kind of fun things that you discovered along the way by making the visuals and having something that felt right for each song? Was there anything that, you know, uncovered itself to you from these songs?
Yeah, definitely. I realised that sometimes I am playing a bit of a character because when I leant into the song and tried to express it, because I'm an actor as well, so I kind of took it on like in that way, that it made me realise that some songs are more vulnerable and they are me, and other songs I'm kind of acting, I'm kind of getting inside a character, and to take that a little bit further and make almost like a little short film or tableau to go with it made me realise that I am kind of playing in some of the songs. And I exaggerated that by turning it into a character and getting dressed as that character and shooting something. Like, for example, with the song The Balance, I knew in the back of my head I was being somewhat like God's secretary, taking notes, because that song was written with words from people on the internet. I collected words. And then when we were like, well, what are we going to do for the visuals for this song? I found myself dressing up in a very prim and proper outfit and getting my book and my pen out. And I was like, well, okay, well, this really is clearly what I must have been seeing myself as. I tried to be extremely nothing kind of in the outfit. It's very like black and white and secretary-ish, taking notes. So I guess it made me understand the song a little bit more, that there really isn't much of me in that. I tried to take myself out of that song. Yeah, so it was an interesting process for sure.
I find things like that, like practices or little exercises like that, can always be something that almost gives insight that maybe wasn't originally intended either, that there's a self-discovery to an extent almost from the artist. With this album coming out, it is the 7th, I believe, in your discography.
I call it the 8th, but yeah, because there was one that was 2 EPs, and some people say, well, that's not an album, but it was a side A and side B of a vinyl. Mm-hmm. So I think of it as an album.
Very fair. Okay.
Unclear. Some of my fans are like, what are you talking about? It's not your 8th album. But yeah, 7th or 8th.
Look, I'll go with you. I'll follow your lead on this one. If we go as the 8th album, then it's the 8th album in the discography. That first one, I believe, coming out in the late 2000s, around 2008. Obviously, the music industry, very different time since that point. Were there any big changes you found in terms of putting this record out, in terms of like what the difference was from that self-titled to now Good Days coming out? And I guess the pros and cons, there's things that are great about putting out music in 2026. And then, as we all know, there are some things that aren't as fun.
Well, first of all, I do feel quite grateful that I did put 2 albums out on a major label at a time when they had big budgets. They did a lot of promo for me. I remember my lawyer and my entertainment lawyer at the time, who is still my lawyer, he was like, we're going to get them to buy you a fan base. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, he wanted them to spend as much money as possible. And I was like, but then I have to pay that money. Like, I don't want that burden. And he said, no, trust me, like this is, only they can do something like this. A major label, the awareness that they bought me of that early music is something that I'm still cashing in on. And it means that now, as an independent artist, when I'm putting out a record, it can feel like you're just throwing it out to the wind. But at least I know that I do have a dedicated fan base that was acquired nearly 20 years ago now, over 15 years ago. And my challenge now is to try to access that fan base through, I see myself as like fighting through the tech bros to like get to them with all the platforms that we've got now that all charge me money to access these people that want to hear about my music. But at least I've got that. Like if you were starting from scratch now, I think it would be very, very challenging, and you would maybe go a completely different route to find your moment and get some attention. But yeah, it has changed so much. It's crazy. I mean, streaming was not a thing back then. It was the iTunes era, and people would download your music. And I remember it was like Yeah. So they would download the song or the album, and that's how they could still just completely count sales that way, or CDs. And then it very quickly shifted. By the time it was my third album, it was the beginning of streaming, I think. Although one quite good thing for me was that a large part of my fan base is in Southeast Asia, which was traditionally a pirate market. So like back in the day, I used to go to Thailand, and I had 3 number 1 radio hits in Thailand within a year, I think. And I was so famous and playing these big like radio shows and stuff like that, needing a bodyguard, like really everybody knew who I was. 0 album sales except for the fake CD. And I've got a few different versions of like the fake CD that we got from the markets, or people would just illegally download. So I wasn't getting any income at all from that region. And then when all the Spotifys and things started to come in, they really caught on in those countries. And now I do get income from people listening to my music there. So I think it's been good and bad for me. And what can you do? You just kind of have to try to, every time I release an album, be like, okay, what's the lay of the land now? Ask around. How do we promote now? What's the best way to try to keep it ticking along?
I don't want to focus too much on the I guess the shifting landscapes of that, because I do want to talk about this new record very quickly, though I do want to comment just on, I imagine it must be a very interesting thing finding a fake or pirated copy of your own album in the market, and
really funny. What
that conversation is kind of, did you maybe not approach, but was there almost like a this is me kind of deal with the...
Yeah, I think so. I remember being in the market and with my bandmates when we were on tour and buying it, and people just laughing about that fact. And the track listing had Rihanna's track listing on the back. It was my cover, but the songs on the back said her song names. And the CD itself also had like some other Disney album. The whole album was on the CD after my album. And there was a time when they tried to find out where they were getting printed and stuff. I think like Sony were trying to follow the trail. Where did these get manufactured? Can we stop them getting? And they don't really have to do that anymore. So things are, I mean, you know, the major labels are loving this new system. I think it's been better for them.
I would 100% agree with that. In terms of the
but
artist,
it's a treasure in my archives. Like that CD is like an archival treasure for me.
I almost feel like being put up alongside Rihanna it's definitely something I would put on my mantle in terms of going, that's right. Like, you know, myself, hit songs, Umbrella, all those other ones, Diamonds.
The show.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Not quite.
This brand new record, I want to say, is almost a return to the sonics that you've previously played with. I felt that,
yes.
What was it? Introspectral, had a little bit more like synths running through it, a bit more synth heavy, but this almost sounded like what I would like to call, and what I imagine other people would call, like classic Lenka, in terms of the way that these songs were built. When you are approaching a new album, and I guess specifically for this one, is there the thought process and conversations around where you want to go sonically, or is it just that, you know, these are the songs that have come out, I want them to sound like this, and that is like my music, if that makes sense?
No, you definitely do have to have references, because you're trying to communicate with other creatives in how the music's going to sound. So I did have 1 or 2 of my older songs on my list of references with a bunch of other old soul and singer-songwriters, and very classic. So my mission was to go classic Lenka and classic singer-songwriter soul. So I was wanting, because I do think that that's what I wanted to do in my earlier albums as well. I've always been quite into the 60s pop soul sound, girl groups and that kind of thing. So, and the Beatles, and like when I first started out, I used to say that my music was inspired by the 3 Bs. I used to say this in interviews. the Beatles, Burt Bacharach and Bjork. That's where I saw myself as being like a combo of those.
I kind of like that though. I think it's
Yeah,
apt.
it's
I think
pretty
you can
funny.
find like through lines between.
Yeah, there was like a little bit of a mishmash of those, and obviously loads of other influences come in over the years, but that's where I was like triangulating somewhere in between those. So there always has been a bit of that. The thing that I hadn't really tried before was trying to emulate a little bit more of that dirty soul sound or that daptonesy kind of thing. So it's a slightly different horn setup. I usually was doing more the Burt Bacharach style horns, which is like usually like a flugelhorn, a trumpet, a trombone, something like that, or French horn. Now it was saxophone, trombone, trumpet to get that more kind of brassy, sleazy sound a little bit.
Yeah.
And doing quite a lot of live band. And I worked with Tony Buchen, a Sydney-based producer who really has this sound locked down. So he was just like, yep, I know exactly what, like he literally already had all the cables in all the 1960s processors and amps and mics and everything ready to go because he loves it too, and he's been collecting vintage gear for years and years. So it was a really easy thing to target, to go like, and in the songwriting as well a little bit, thinking like that, like thinking, you know, Carole King or Bill Withers, like, and also the contemporary bands that are doing a soul revival sound. I was trying to aim a little bit for that. I mean, to an extent you just write what you write and you don't want to tailor it too much because it gets a little bit too kind of professional, I feel. Like it's not as authentic if you try too hard. It gets very pop if you tailor things too much.
Yeah.
So in order to keep things a little more raw and vulnerable, you just let yourself write what you write. But I was trying to think quite simple hooks, not in a pop way where you've only got like two notes, but in a sort of a simple classic chorus way where there's an emotional quality, but it's not crazy melodic. It's not too fussy. It's not too sophisticated in all the different elements of the melodies and the musicality. It's like just simple and classic. Because I've been loving that music. I've been finding that it really still hits my heart chords so clearly, the new versions and the old versions, that I just wanted to try to keep it simple.
I think there's a power that is maybe not spoken to enough about how sometimes simple pop music can be a lot more effective than the overcomplicated or overprocessed or whatever it may be. And don't get me wrong, it definitely has its place. You've got people
both
like...
can work for sure.
Exactly. I think that was it Jacob Collier is like a perfect example of like extremely brilliant musical mind, does some really cool things. But if you said to me like, sing a Jacob Collier song, I probably couldn't do it for you. I feel that there's something about simple pop writing that works and has a timeless quality to it. I imagine it's why songs like The Show, like still to this day, a number of years later, have something where you can just sing. I was singing it this morning not in preparation for today, but obviously where we were chatting. And my wife was like, love that song. I haven't heard that song recently. And it was that thing of instant recognition within 5 seconds or so, which I think plays to that power of songwriting.
Simple melody, yeah. Yeah, I agree. A lot of the music that my 10-year-old daughter likes, it's really hard for me to try to catch and remember the melody. She likes Cat's Eye and Zara Larsson, and I can't sing the songs to her. She's like, she'll be singing. I'm like, what song is that? And I'm like, God, I just can't recognize it from you singing it because it's about the beat and the bratty kind of talky vocals. And like, I really like it. I really like stuff like that too. You know, we definitely listen to stuff like that, especially in the car or, you know, when the kids are choosing the playlist or when I'm exercising. I love bratty pop, but yeah, you can't. You're right. You can't actually recall it because they're not very soulful either. that music.
No, with all respect to Cat's Eye and
I also I do love synth pop, and I love all sorts of genres of music and have wanted to experiment with them over the years. Conceptually for this album, the return to wanting it to be really simple and human was a conscious-ish reaction to how much digital stuff we are just being forced to ingest with AI growing so quickly, and we don't really have any choice in the matter with how much our lives have become so digital. It's impossible to avoid it now. So I guess I sort of felt like maybe it's my last chance, or perhaps it does seem that there's a zeitgeist of musicians wanting to return to this, and just the simple joy of playing music with another human being, mistakes and all, just the notes intermingling without much computer help is really precious nowadays. And it felt like an absolute pleasure and privilege to do it. Whereas it used to be like the step one, sit down and play guitar with someone. Now that's like, oh, can we just have it, just guitar and vocal? Like that's like a real treat these days. It's bizarre.
One of the highlights of this record for myself was a track. I know we've spoken about how the songwriting has been classic singer-songwriter, classic Lenka to an extent. It was So Far So Good on the record, which I thought was almost a beautiful distillation of what we've been talking about in terms of like just having something that you could feel was tangible. It felt like yourself. It felt like listening to previous iterations of your music, but also still modern and new. Wondering whether you might be able to, and I realised we addressed this at the top in terms of saying, tell me about this song, and it has been probably 8 or 9 months since you've recorded it, but wondering whether you might indulge me a little bit in talking about the catalyst of So Far So Good and maybe what inspired it or where it came from.
That's a newer one. Classic chorus. I was playing around with chords that continue. I don't have great music theory, but there's something that I recognise in classic singer-songwriter, folk, soul kind of songs where you don't repeat the same chords. There's a slight return to the one on the 4, if that makes sense. Like the 4th chord is the same as the 1st chord, and then you've got to depart, that the 5th chord is different to the 1st chord. And I've done that on a few songs here, and like I said, I only did one night course at the Con on music theory as a young adult, so I don't really know what it's called or why that mode feels familiar of a certain type of music. But I find it very emotive. It's almost like twee and corny. It's real classic, singer-songwriter trope. But as I was leaning into that idea with these songs, that song has a chorus like that, and it has a verse that is just classic me. Because embarrassingly, a lot of it comes out of the fact that I'm not a great piano player. I'm a bit of a basher, bim boom 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 boom, and I've always liked to play like that. I don't enjoy the sound of myself playing. When I try to play like Tori Amos or Missy Higgins, it doesn't feel right for me. When I play in my naive style, partly it's the extent of my skill, and partly it just feels like me. And I very much am someone that tries to keep that childlike wonder intact in my worldview and in my art. So the verses are very much that. And then themically it's playing around with ideas of superstition and luck and looking back on your life and assessing it. And it actually came out of a time when I was feeling really scared about the world and vulnerable. It was after my husband's accident last year. My husband had a really, really bad bicycle accident. He was in hospital for 8 days. He had his jaw wide shut for 2 months. It was really devastating. He completely smashed his face. And a few other bad things happened, and I was just feeling really nervous about the world, and I was just like, can bad shit stop happening. Like you just never know if things are going to be okay. So that's where I was trying to write from. But I don't like to wallow or put too much negative stuff out into the world. So whilst I was writing that, the verse, this is a classic Lenka song. You come around to the chorus, you start to feel okay about things. Like my songs always start off, I'm worried about something or I'm sad about something. And then the chorus is like, but everything's going to be okay. And so the chorus of this song is, if you do look back onto your life up until now and you always were going, oh, bad things are happening and why am I so unlucky and why does life be so cruel to me? But all in all, it's been okay. It all turned out okay in the end kind of thing. So that's what that song's about.
I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
No worries. We played it live for the first time the other night. It was really fun.
That's awesome. I can't imagine a Lenka song where it doesn't story-wise or thematically kind of resolve. I think that if there was all doom and gloom and then that's it, it doesn't really seem like that would fit within your catalogue.
I can't put it out, really. I do have songs like that, but I tend to not, they don't make the album. Because I feel like there's magic in music, and even though I don't mind listening to depressing music sometimes I just, I don't want too much of that playing in the world. I don't want to give it power. I don't want to give the dark thoughts power. I'd much rather try to focus on the light stuff. Fake it till you make it.
I can appreciate that. I think the more you feed it, the more it obviously plays into it. And so why feed it? You don't have to. There
Absolutely.
are a number of dates around the globe in support of this record. Wondering very quickly whether you might be able to share with us, is there a certain track off the record that you are looking forward to playing in the live space and kind of playing around with?
Yeah, well, I haven't played, speaking of the darker songs, Heart Flame, which is a ballad, very, very slow ballad, and it seems to be the one that my Indonesian fans, who are my like most thirsty fans that really, really loving and really obsessed, they really want to hear that one. And the one that you mentioned, So Far So Good, was really fun to play live, and it's very simple. And some of these shows that I'm doing are solo, so I can easily just bring out songs like that. I'm looking forward to that because the bigger songs that have the horns and stuff, it was an absolute pleasure to play live in Sydney, but I don't have the budget of, say, an Olivia Dean to travel around with an 11-piece band. So those songs I'm going to have to break them down, and it won't be as much of a pleasure for me because I'll be really missing those beautiful horn arrangements. But I'll do my best to just, keep them simple, and a good song, you should be able to just strip it right back to just a piano or just a guitar, and hopefully it shines through.
What we've been talking about today is the power of like beautiful and simple, straightforward songwriting, and I believe that there is a lot of that within this album and within your catalogue as well. But I know that there's a lot of excitement around these shows. We are going to make sure that we have links to purchase tickets within today's show notes, as well as links on where people can purchase a record and stream Good Days. But Lenka, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast to chat.
Thank you. I really appreciate your support.